All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Project Nourish podcast. We're your host. I'm Megan Gump, a certified nutritional therapy practitioner and restart instructor.
And I'm Casey Poe Campbell, also a nutritional therapy practitioner and restart instructor, along with a licensed esthetician. And we're going to bring you a podcast all about health, wellness, holistic nutrition, functional medicine, and non-toxic living.
Yep. And then also just as a disclaimer, you guys, so topics discussed and recommendations given in this podcast are not to treat or cure any disease. We as NTPs want to discover and address your underlying health symptoms using nutritional therapy, functional medicine, and non-toxic living.
So Megan, how's it going? What's new with you and what are you digging lately?
Well, my day is going good. So as we were just talking about, the weather down here in Houston is not as magical as I wish that it was. But other than that, everything's going good. Knock on wood, I have not got the flu and I have not got sick. So whatever this bug is going around, I have developed a force field around myself that I'm very grateful for. And so something that I'm super digging in these last couple of weeks especially is actually elderberry syrup. So I know a lot of people are getting into the elderberry syrup just to kind of, boost up the immune system and not get sick or to help themselves get better if they did get the bug. But I actually made my own for the first time a couple weeks ago, and I just couldn't believe how simple it was. It was so simple and easy to make. And I've just been taking a shot of it every day. And like I said, I haven't got sick. So I think there's something to it.
So wait, I didn't know that you could actually make it. I've just always bought it from the store.
Yeah, I mean, it's super easy. So you just need to get like your organic elderberries, organic cloves, some cinnamon, and then I have like a local raw honey. And so you basically just boil all of the ingredients except for the honey in water. So you start off with, oh gosh, I don't remember how much it was. But so, for example, like a cup of water, and you just boil everything down for like an hour until it simmers and gets to like, it reduces to half of the liquid. And then when it's about at half of the liquid, you let it cool so it's not scalding hot. And then when it's still warm, you add a cup of local raw honey, and then you mix all that together. Well, excuse me, I guess I skipped a step. You strain all of the like elderberries and the clove and everything out first. And then you add the honey to the liquid that's left over. And then that's where the syrup comes from.
Huh, that sounds really good.
Yeah, it's super good and it's really easy to make. And when you do it yourself, you're getting, that the benefit of the local honey that you're using. So hopefully from a farmer's market or local farm. So that's why I like making it myself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah, the flu down there is horrible. I have so many friends that like they have it, their kids have it.
Yeah, it's really sad. Yeah, it's no bueno right now.
That.
So it's kind of an almost epidemic status. Yeah, no fun. So what's going on with you, Casey?
Let's see. Well, it's super windy here today since we'll give some weather updates. But yeah, here in the Boulder, Colorado, it is super windy. So Scott is actually, my husband, is out riding bikes right now. So I have no idea how they're even staying upright. I'm sure it's a miserable ride.
Yeah, especially on those hills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't even imagine. So the thing that I am super digging right now, I got a new tongue scraper this past week, and it is made out of copper. So it's from this company. It's called The Dirt, and it is for cleaning your teeth naturally, but it's the pure copper tongue scraper. And I thought there was this really funny stat on the back. I don't know if there's been clinical trials or anything, but it says having fresh breath has been proven to increase your chances of getting a date by 137%.
Wow.
So for those of you who are having problems getting a date, maybe you need to scrape your tongue.
Could be all the answers that you need.
Yeah, just your little PSA there. If you're not getting a date, scrape your tongue.
That's awesome. I like that it's made out of copper. That's super cool. And I think The Dirt, I'm pretty sure, if I'm thinking correctly, that's the company that makes like the charcoal toothpaste or something like that.
Yeah, I think they have a whole line.
Yeah, a bunch of different products. Yep.
Tools.
Yeah. That's fun.
I guess you'd say.
Well, super cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so this week, Casey and I are going to be talking a little bit about blood sugar. So blood sugar dysregulation, basically the way that it's supposed to work, or kind of the chemical reaction that happens in our body when we eat, and the dysfunction that can happen if we don't eat the right foods. So, as restart instructors, we lead our classes through a 21-day sugar detox.
Mhm.
And so, just to kind of, this is just a little bit of information that we teach in our classes, just to kind of give a little sneak peek, but really just diving in to kind of educate you guys on how blood sugar should work. And just to kind of give a little history here, kind of like a fun fact. So, there has never before in the history of mankind been a need to lower blood sugar like there is today. So, Americans are eating more sugar in 1 year than we have in previous generations' lifetimes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
That
pretty,
is just crazy to
yeah.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, sugar is everywhere. It's literally in everything. I mean, if
Yeah.
people really start to notice the ingredients on all of the products and everything in their condiments in their home and all that kind of stuff, I mean, sugar is hidden in so many different words in so many different ways on the label. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that,
But I mean, it's just like everywhere. I remember going to the doctor's office as a kid and you would get a lollipop or even the dentist when you're done. I mean, talk about creating return business. They're like, here you go. Here's a lollipop or some Jolly Ranchers. Even better.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or I mean, think about when you're young, like how do your parents reward you, right? It's like, oh, let's go get some ice cream, or oh, I'm going to buy you candy if you're good.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's everywhere. Yeah. So in 1821, the average American ate about 10 pounds of sugar per year, and so today the average American eats about 180 pounds per year. Like that is
Wow.
freaking nuts. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like literally the weight of a full grown man. I mean, that's a lot of sugar.
Yeah. I can't imagine. Like, it would kind of be fun to set that up in sugar cubes just to see what that looks like quantity wise.
Yeah.
But
So
I mean, imagining a 180-pound man, that
yeah.
does the job too. But still,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just seeing all of that, like the man is a little more compressed.
Right? Yeah. I actually went to a conference one time where the speaker dumped white sugar and white flour and bread all over the stage of how much sugar and processed like flours that we eat in a year. And it was nuts. I mean, they were dumping wheelbarrows like all over the stage. It was going everywhere, but it was a very intense visual to see. Like, that's a lot of stuff we should not be putting in our bodies.
I'm sure the cleaning crew loved that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Exactly.
So
Um,
something that I found that it was, I mean, it makes sense, but it was just kind of shocking to me that sugar can be as highly addictive as alcohol and even cocaine. I mean, there's been studies done where lab rats will choose, or maybe it's mice, I don't know which one, but they'll choose sugar over cocaine. I mean, it's no wonder why people have such a strong addiction to it and why it is so hard to break that
yeah.
habit, because I mean, it's not only it's illegal, but it's everywhere, like we were just saying, like banks handing out candy. Like, yeah, I used to go to this bank specifically because they had those Otis Spunkmeyer cookies there.
Oh my gosh.
They were so good though. Like, it would smell good in there. And
That's how they kept you coming back.
yeah, exactly. And, just thinking about the cereals that our kids eat and everything and school lunches, just how much sugar is in those and just how much they're consuming every single day, that it really is becoming just a serious problem that is rapidly getting worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, think about it. Like our kids eat, breakfast and lunch. That's 2 meals a day at school.
Mm-hmm.
And these schools are not buying organic, grass fed, pasture raised ingredients. They're getting these refined foods that are just laden with sugar.
Yeah. So I have a friend that's a teacher, and she one day had to eat the school breakfast, and she sent me a picture of it, and it was skim milk with Fruit Loops and a banana and some orange juice.
It's crazy.
And yeah. And I mean, it was just insane because I think over half of her class was on some type of AD or ADD, ADHD or ADD medication. And I'm like,
I wonder why.
wonder why? Because they're getting like 80 grams of sugar with their breakfast. Maybe not. I don't know exactly how much, but
I mean, it's probably almost close. That's
yeah,
nuts.
yeah, just crazy.
That's sad.
Makes me hangry just thinking about it.
It makes me more the angry part than the hangry
I
part.
can feel the sugar crash just
Oh
thinking about
God.
it.
Yeah. Those poor kids.
Yeah. But speaking of having a proper balance of blood sugar levels, this is actually one of our body's top priorities. And our body is going to do whatever it is, like whatever's necessary to make sure that we keep our blood sugar in balance. So, our happy place for blood sugar is between 80 and 100 milligrams per deciliter. That is, so if you're imagining just a graph, I guess you can say, and there's two lines on it, you want to make sure that your blood sugar is between that lower line at 80 and that upper line at 100. And when we're eating a meal of balanced, healthy proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, these nutrient dense whole foods, it makes it much easier for our body to convert those foods into energy. And our blood sugar is naturally going to rise to that upper limit at 100 milligrams per deciliter, maybe a little bit higher, but it's not going to dramatically shoot up like way above
Right.
those.
Yeah, I mean, of course, just again, depending on what you eat, right?
Mhm.
So if you eat an apple or a piece of fruit, obviously your blood sugar is going to get a little bit higher than if you eat a piece of chicken or some broccoli.
Right.
But you always want to aim to keep your blood sugar basically in between those two lines, kind of like what Casey was talking about. I mean, really just think about it. So you wake up in the day, excuse me, in the morning, and your blood sugar is down there, 80, maybe a little bit lower. Um, Cortisol is just kind of kicking in, all that kind of stuff. And then you eat your first meal, and that's when that blood sugar level rises to that happy level of about 100. And then so your food starts to digest and be absorbed, and then your blood sugar starts to go back down. And then you get creeping down to that 80 or a little bit lower level. And then that's again when you get the signals of like, I'm hungry, I need a snack or something like that. So then that's where you want to give yourself, again, that good sources of protein or healthy fat or, non starchy vegetables, because you don't want to eat the cereal or the candy bar, because that's basically going to be when your blood sugar just shoots up through the roof. Like we're talking past 100,
Hmm.
right? And then you've got that sugar high. But yeah, so
That's
that's kind of
basically
that.
when you're hopping on that sugar roller coaster
Yeah,
at
you
that
don't
point.
you don't want to get on that roller coaster.
Mm.
Those are not the fun ones.
It's not a fun one. Definitely
Mm-mm.
not.
Yeah, yeah. So when the blood sugar reaches that upper limit, so this is when the pancreas gets the message to secrete the hormone insulin, right? So insulin's job is to take excess sugar out of the blood and store it in the liver, but also the muscles for later use. And so this is another important, piece of the puzzle right here is when that pancreas gets the message to secrete insulin, right? And insulin takes that excess sugar and then stores it in the liver first, and then it goes to the muscles, but not a whole lot goes to the muscles. And if any extra sugar is left over, like where do you guys think that's going to go? It's going to go straight to fat storage. So that's why you don't want to be eating those refined carbohydrates and all that kind of stuff, because this is where people are putting on weight, beyond what it's doing to your blood sugar levels, which is what we're going to describe in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then so after a few hours, when the blood sugar level begins to get low, so this is what I was talking about a second ago, but still in a healthy range, the pancreas secretes a different hormone called glucagon that takes the stored sugar out of storage and puts it back into the blood for use as energy until the next meal. So that's when your blood sugar levels start to get low. You're starting to get a little hangry or hungry,
That's
depending
when
on.
you turn into Betty White from those Snickers commercials or Aretha Franklin.
Right. Well, yeah, that's probably a little bit of blood sugar dysregulation going on there.
Yeah,
We don't
we'll
we
talk more about that, but
Yeah, we don't want to turn it that extreme, but glucagon is really important because it comes in and it basically gives you that energy until your next meal, right? So we got to think about our ancestors. They would wake up, they would go and hunt, they would get that awesome, buffalo or deer or duck or whatever it was, and then
I'm
they
pretty sure
would.
they would scrape their tongues first before they went out on their hunting adventures.
Yeah, theirs was probably made out of something a lot cooler than copper wire, but who knows what.
Probably.
I'm just
Yeah.
imagining it. It's probably pretty cool, but
Probably like a bone of some kind. Ooh, maybe a
exact.
wishbone.
Ooh, that's actually, yeah, you're probably hitting the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, but anyway, so they would go out, they would get their food, they would have a meal, and then that when their blood sugar levels would begin to get down back towards that 80 range, that's when glucagon really comes in to give them the energy to get themselves to that next meal, right? Because they don't know when that next deer is going to run by.
Mhm.
So that's why glucagon is really important. Um, so yeah, that's it, folks. That's
And
kind of yeah, no. So, but that's definitely how healthy blood sugar balance stays healthy. Like that's the way it is supposed to work.
Mhm. But
Yes.
most of the time, it does not work that great. So, let's talk about what happens when the body receives too much sugar. So, let's say we have a meal with some pizza, beer, French fries, and then we're going to follow it up with a big piece of
Ice
chocolate
cream.
cake. Ooh, yeah, and ice cream on the
Okay.
side. Let's just go all in.
Or like a brownie with ice cream on it.
Yeah, and then like chocolate syrup
Oh God.
drizzled on top. So, what's going to happen there is our blood sugar is going to shoot just way past that upper normal range. And our pancreas is basically going to push the panic button and release more and more insulin because it's on this sugar high. And our bodies are only designed to store a small amount of sugar in our liver and muscles. And so, if we have this excess, Megan alluded to this already, that it is going to be stored as body fat. And when we keep repeating this process of just having all of this excess sugar, what do you think is going to happen? Ding, ding, ding. We are going to get fatter. And because of all of this excess insulin that we have floating around, then our blood sugar, so we've hit that really high on the roller coaster, and then all of a sudden we are just going to plummet down into the normal range. And then the glucagon is not going to be able to revert all of this into stored sugar and back into the bloodstream. So this is when we're going to get our sugar crash. And this is when, we don't feel good. We get shaky, we get angry, hangry, all of that kind of stuff. And so the ways to get out of that, we have to eat more sugar.
Yep. This is when people are reaching for the pastries and the donuts at
Mhm.
work, right? The granola bars,
Oh, yeah.
whatever is in the, vending machines, that kind of stuff. This is when
Mhm.
they're just like, I need something to stay alive so I can get through this day.
Yeah. Mine was
Um,
always Snickers.
yeah, I mean, everybody has their vice, but I mean, this is the point where our body actually brings in our little adrenal glands to deal with
Mhm.
this. So, this is actually when we release the hormone cortisol to raise blood sugar levels. And you guys, cortisol is involved in a stress response, right? So cortisol is known as the stress hormone. So when we are stressed repeatedly, think of like our modern lifestyle. So too little sleep, constant go mode, but yet sedentary, right? Like we're driving around everywhere,
Mhm.
but we're always go, go, go. And then, people just aren't getting enough exercise. They just don't take any time to relax, kind of do them. No downtime. And then just too much sugar, too many processed, packaged, man made foods, chemical overload, this constant informational input. It's just an enormous strain on our system, an enormous strain on all of our different body systems, but as well as the whole. And so, eventually this excess cortisol increases insulin levels and adds to weight gain, especially around the midsection, right? So this is like the cortisol belly, right? We've all heard that term, and this is where it comes from. Comes from blood sugar dysregulation from our body. Our adrenal glands kicking in, coming in to save the day, outputting that cortisol, and this is that cortisol belly that nobody wants to carry around.
AKA muffin top.
Hey, exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, cortisol is the stress hormone, and this is not the way that our body should be dealing with that. It shouldn't be because it needs to regulate blood sugar. It needs to be because we're running from a bear or something else. Um, yep.
Yeah, something adding on to that, like the running from the bear, our bodies are incredibly intelligent, but at the same time, they are not. So our bodies can't tell the difference with stress when we're sitting in traffic and we're going to be late for work, or we get an angry email from our boss. Our body is going to signal that as we're getting chased by the saber-toothed tiger
Mm-hmm.
or the woolly mammoth, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to run. I mean, unless your boss is really mean, then you might run. But so just, that our bodies, they are trained to have that response. However, there was usually some kind of physical output
Mm-hmm.
afterwards, but now we're constantly in that stressed or that fight or flight mode.
Yeah. 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 And we're not doing anything about it, right? We're not running. We're not, working out the way we probably should be. I mean, some of us of course are, but I just don't think some people move enough.
No.
And this is where we get that fat storage, you guys. This is where it comes from.
Yep.
So everything you
All
put in your
those.
mouth matters. Yeah.
Next time you see a muffin top, you'll know that's cortisol
Yep.
right
That
there.
person, blood sugar dysregulation and stress.
Yes. Give them our business card.
Yeah. Yeah.
So another impact of sugar, and this is just, talking about it from the skin sense, is that we have, it's called advanced glycation in products, or AGEs for short. And so what this is going to do is it actually speeds up the signs of aging. So we end up with more wrinkles, age spots, sagging skin. So if you imagine our skin as a piece of bread, how the bread is going to be all nice and fluid and it's going to be flexible, that's the way our skin should be. But then when we put it into the toaster oven, it becomes very burnt and crisp, rigid almost. So that is what's happening to our skin when we have too much sugar. We get those ages, and in essence, it's going to age our skin. So one more benefit to cutting processed sugar out of your diet is your face is going to look a lot younger.
Yeah.
A yacht younger.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and again, kind of going back to, all right, not eating those refined and processed foods, like, okay, what should I be eating? Your good, clean proteins, your vegetables, and your healthy fats, because again, those healthy fats combat what Casey's talking about here, with these quote unquote, ages, or these advanced glycation end products, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, got to eat those healthy fats. Um, and then, basically the stages of dysglycemia. So, right, the dysfunction of blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So, first you've got this hypoglycemia, or like this low blood sugar level, where you get past that 80 mark, right? So you're down there and you just really need something. So this is where people, like I said earlier, are kind of reaching for the donuts and the pastries at work and the granola bars. And then they get their blood sugar levels to spike up way past 100. And when you repeatedly do this to your body, so you eat a breakfast with cereals and your blood sugar goes up and then it comes way back down. So then you reach for the granola bars or the donuts or the pastries and then your blood sugar goes way back up and then it comes back down. And then in the afternoon, you're reaching for the coffee and, oh gosh, I don't even know, bagels or whatever's laying around from the morning, right? Bag of chips, whatever's in their vending machine, then it goes right back up. So constantly throughout the day, your body is dealing with this, the response of insulin, right? Dealing with all that extra sugar. So this is when, if this happens all the time, just way too much in the body, this is when we actually get insulin resistance.
Yeah, and
So,
I imagine the insulin resistance, this is basically when you've cried wolf way too many times.
right. Yeah, your body just gets sick of it. It's like there's just too much sugar. I'm outputting way too much insulin. Like I can't keep doing this. So it's like hands up, it backs off, right? So this is when the insulin stops doing its job. It stops bringing that sugar into the cells, into the liver, into the muscles. And then this is when we get hyperglycemia. So this is when our blood sugar levels, stay elevated.
Mm-hmm.
So they stay elevated and we have just way too much sugar in our system. And then this is, of course, what leads us into like lifestyle or type 2 diabetes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Too much sugar, insulin's not doing its job, it's not responding. So, and then to just kind of hit on the differences of diabetes. So, type 2 is totally lifestyle. You are not born with type 2 diabetes. It is by what you put in your mouth and the way that you move your body, how you live your life. It's lifestyle. So type 1, that's the autoimmune disease. That is, it was referred to as juvenile diabetes, but that is just when your body, when you are born with the inability to either produce insulin, or something happened in your life where that process just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep. And then, so basically, the second type, which is type 2, this was actually called adult onset diabetes. But the name actually has been changed to type 2 diabetes, like we were talking about, because it no longer applies to adult only. So young children are becoming diabetic, which has never, ever, ever happened before in the history of humankind. That's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, it's so sad too, because It's you sometimes have conversations with people about type 2 diabetes, and let's say that their mom or their dad or somebody had it and they almost expect to get it as well.
Yeah.
Like it is, our genetics, they do not guarantee that we will or won't get type
Hmm.
2 diabetes,
Hmm.
but you absolutely have a choice in the matter of what you put in your mouth. So it's not one of those things just because, your mom had it or your dad had it that you are automatically destined to get type 2 diabetes. And I think that it needs to be a mindset shift that no, we don't have to get this
Hmm.
disease. And especially, I mean, the young kids, it's just, oh man, I can get real fired up
Yeah,
about that one.
it's really sad. But I mean, especially in young kids, it goes a lot back to the parents' knowledge and the parents' education and the parents' lifestyle and how they're eating.
Hmm.
Because, of course, especially young kids are just following along with whatever they eat throughout the day and doing what their parents do. But yeah, I mean, type 2 diabetes is 110% your decision to basically do everything that you can to prevent that.
Hmm.
And even if you have diabetes, you can actually really turn things around when you start eating a healthy diet and you start exercising. People see great, great, great improvement in their conditions. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and
type.
just a quick note, we're not, like let's say that you do have orange juice every morning with breakfast or, you are a parent. We're not trying to say, like you're doing damage to your kids because we have all been given really horrible nutritional advice for a long time. So we're not pointing our fingers, just so you
No,
guys know.
not at all. We are solely here to educate everyone on the amazing knowledge and education that we got as nutritional therapy practitioners. I mean, before I went through the NTA program, I was a low fat girl. Like I ate everything low fat. I was working out, I was lifting, I was low fat, I was oatmeal for breakfast, I was quinoa or rice for lunch, like, my proteins and my carbs, like, and then I'd go to the gym, and that was my life. Like that was my mindset.
Mhm.
And the Nutritional Therapy Association is what educated me on why healthy fats are so important. And one of the girls in our class actually, like, after looking at my food journal, she was like, "You have to start eating fat." Um, I've only been eating healthy fats since, last January 2017. I mean, that's nuts. So, yeah, we're all learning here, and Casey and I
Mhm.
are solely on this journey to guide people and to educate as many people as we can and change their lives for the better. So,
Yeah,
we're not pointing fingers.
absolutely.
We're just here on the journey with everyone ourselves. So,
I know. I cringe at how many egg yolks I've gotten rid of
oh gosh, that used
in
to
the
be my
day.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would break open an egg and I would put the yolk back in the shell and I would actually just put it back into the egg carton and I would line them all up until all the eggs were used and they would all be the shells and the yolks and every single egg.
Yeah.
So
Like,
sad.
I'm sorry, egg yolks.
I know. It's like committing murder.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now I eat all of them, so I'm
I know, me
making
too.
making up for it. But then
Yeah,
even for a while, I would just get egg beaters because that was so much easier
yeah.
than getting just cracking the egg open.
Oh yeah, I've had plenty of days with the egg beater cartons and those veggie egg white muffins as
Oh
my
yeah.
staple. Yeah, so
Mhm. Yeah.
not anymore.
So, as part of our restart program that both Megan and I teach, there is a 21-day sugar detox as part of it. And so, a lot of things that we deal with, I guess, with our classes is cravings and educating our participants and our friends and family, and even ourselves on how to overcome and manage cravings, and also just kind of where they come from. So, something that's really interesting, and like we're a little bit separated from the holidays right now, but think back to kind of November through December and things that traditions with our family meals. And so sometimes you crave a food that is familiar to you, and we are creatures of habit. So there's probably some certain or not breakfast, but dessert or meal that you have around the holidays or like a birthday. And it may not even necessarily, you probably don't think about it any other time of the year, but you just know when you sit down, you're like, yes, it is time for peanut butter
Stuffing.
cake or whatever it
Yeah.
is going to be. Yeah, stuffing or anything like that. Or when you go to the movies, how hard was it the first couple of times to not get the popcorn? Because you
Yeah.
smell it and all of that. I always used to get peanut M&Ms. That was my movie thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the holidays and just special occasions and stuff like that is when people really tie themselves to certain foods.
Hmm.
So, and just, adopting a healthy lifestyle, whether it's paleo or primal or, Weston A. Price, or if you've got more specific needs like GAPS or SCD, that kind of stuff, it's really just like taking those foods and transforming them using ingredients that work for your body.
Hmm.
Because you can still have them. You can still make everything you've ever eaten and everything you ever love. In the past, traditions growing up, all that kind of stuff, you can still do it. You just have to find a way and, make it work, but it's
Hmm.
totally doable. Yeah, that's definitely one place where we get our cravings from. Um, and then again, kind of also when thinking about cravings, so when your body is craving something specifically, that is a huge sign that you're actually missing a specific nutrient.
Hmm.
So your body gives you that huge craving because it's like, I need this nutrient. So for example, chocolate is chocolate has a lot of magnesium in it. So when we crave magnesium, it's actually a sign that like when we crave chocolate, it's because we actually need magnesium. It's an essential mineral that many of us are deficient in. So particularly when you have many processed foods or sugar in your diet, that kind of stuff. Or like think about it like salt. Like how many people are like, oh, I'm not a sweet person, I'm a salty person.
Hmm.
Well, it's like, okay, well, you probably need a little bit of sodium in your life. So go ahead and pinch that sea salt in your water every day, and you'll not only be giving yourself some essential sodium that you need, but your adrenals will love you for it.
Yeah,
So that kind of stuff.
absolutely. I've
Yeah.
started adding in just doing some salt water first thing when I wake up. And so we do toddy coffee. So I heat up, like
Hmm.
boil water just on the stovetop. And
Hmm.
I'll add just a little bit of that to my water just to make it a little bit warmer than room temperature. And that's how I've been starting my day, just to make my adrenals happy and
Yeah. Yeah.
give
That's
them a little
awesome.
love.
Yeah. Yeah. I carry around just like a um, little tiny thing of salt. Actually, it's just like a little glass like pill jar type thing. And I just open it and I grab a pinch and I put it in my water and I carry it around with me in my purse and stuff. It's in my car. So,
That's hardcore.
well, I mean, it's little. It's it probably sounds bigger when I'm describing it, but it's like quarter size, a little thicker kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hashtag NTPs.
Yeah, exactly. These are the tips we'll
So
give.
another thing that can cause cravings is you may crave a food that you actually have a sensitivity to.
Hmm.
And this probably sounds super counterintuitive, but the fact is, when we eat a food that we have an intolerance to, our body is going to try to protect itself by producing antibodies, antihistamines, or endorphins to counteract this negative effect. And so it's that positive protective response that feels good to our body and makes us want to eat more and more of this offending food. So I have a great example of this. I used to eat peanut butter just by the spoonfuls. And I mean, I was just like obsessed with it and just basically could not get through my afternoon without eating spoonfuls of peanut butter.
Hmm.
And so it was after one of our workshop weekends, actually before our last workshop weekend, I did the Coca Pulse test with it. So you put the peanut butter in your mouth and you take your pulse. We can explain it later, but that's essentially what you do. And my pulse went up by 12.
Wow.
Yeah. So anything over 6 indicates allergic tension
Hmm.
to it. And so, I don't get anaphylactic shock or, swelling, numbness, any of that from peanut butter, but definitely I could feel how much my pulse had quickened
Yeah.
from that.
Yeah, that's nuts. I mean, your
Hmm.
body just loves that response that, it enables with our immune system basically coming in, trying to protect you from that,
Hmm.
specific food or that sensitivity that you're having. And it's that reaction, it's that that our body craves and is like, oh, I just love how I'm taking care of myself. Like, how can I do that
Mhm.
again? Let me
Yeah.
put something bad in my body and then I'll get a good reaction from it. I mean, your endorphins, your neurotransmitters, all that kind of stuff kicks in. And so that's the good feeling that you get. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. So no more peanut
Yeah.
butter. Wah wah.
Right. And yeah, and to kind of, go off of like the neurotransmitters and that stuff. I mean, you also have to remember another place where cravings come from is from our gut bugs, right?
Mhm.
So we as humans have trillions of microbes in our gut, and they live the majority of them
Just
live
make up words. It's okay.
yeah. The majority of them live in your small and your large intestine, right? So your gut, and then they're there by design. So all is well, they live in harmony with each other. But if there's ever an imbalance, like too many toxins or medications or sugar or stress, there's the good and then there's also the bad, right? So the bad microbes or these bad organisms can basically just like overgrow, and then that's when they make us crave these bad foods, because these bad organisms live off of disaccharide complex carbohydrates and sugars and that kind of stuff, and these are where they thrive. So that's why we also get cravings for foods that just do not serve us and do not honor us, is because we're feeding these bad, kind of how I talked about them the last week. They're like the bad gangsters in the neighborhood kicking
Mhm.
out of the good guys. So yeah, that's another thing we got to be careful for, is we want to make sure that we're feeding all of those. In my picture, in my head, I picture like an old person community with like just a bunch of cute old couples, and they're just minding their business. They have cute little yards of flowers and everything, and you want to make sure you're feeding those guys, not the gangsters that come in. They're riding around with their music blaring and spray painting stuff. So this is literally the vision I have in my head of what goes on in our guts. So
I love
FYI.
it.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so don't feed those guys. Don't eat those refined processed foods and sugars. Feed the good guys. Give them your vegetables and your proteins and your lots and lots and lots of healthy fats.
Yeah. Exactly. So, another reason that we can crave foods, it has nothing to do with food at all. It's more emotional. So, you're stressed, you're bored, lonely, sad, angry, even happy. You reach to food for comfort. So, this is again my case, and I've talked to several clients who have experienced this. But every afternoon when I was at a day job that I was just bored at, it wasn't necessarily that I didn't like it. I just was so bored, and just sitting at a desk for 8+ hours every day was just totally not my jam. And so every day between 2 and 3 o'clock, I would go downstairs and get some trail mix or something else. And it wasn't because I was hungry at all. It was simply because I was bored. And when I left that job, I completely eliminated that 3 p.m. snacking, and it was, I wasn't even hungry or anything. But when I was sitting at my desk, you would have thought that I was going to like gnaw my arm off, or, like that I was so hungry, but I wasn't at all. It was just purely that emotion
Hmm.
piece of
Yeah.
it. So another thing, that you can ask yourself if you are wanting that food is, okay, am I really hungry? And the way that you can test that is if I would eat some salmon and steamed broccoli right now, then you probably really are hungry. But if you're like, nah, I just want some peanut M&Ms, then you're not really hungry. You're bored. Go drink some water or find a new job.
Yeah, that's actually really good advice. I've never thought about like think about, eating something healthy, and if you really don't want it, you just want junk, then yeah, you're probably not hungry. And your
Mhm.
bad gut bugs want you to eat junk.
Yeah, exactly. Those gangsters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
taking
it's
over
not
here.
you, it's the gangsters.
Yeah, taking over. You got to
Yeah.
watch out for them. So true. So, I mean, really, with, kind of taking that time to really check in with yourself, making sure if you're really hungry or not. Yeah, it's important. It's important. And then, so I guess the bite-sized piece of advice that Casey and I want to leave for you guys is, with all this being said, sugar is freaking everywhere, right?
Mhm.
So the best thing that you can do for yourself every day, all day, with everything that you put in your mouth, is just be sure and check the ingredient list. It's simple. So just be sure to read it carefully. Look for those hidden sugar words, and avoid them. You know, many of the sweeteners used today are so much sweeter than real sugar that our taste buds may become accustomed to the exaggerated taste. So, sugar substitutes can be up to 1,200 times sweeter than real sugar.
Yeah.
So, read your labels, guys.
How crazy is that? And, going back to our restart classes, when we have people have, let's say, a green apple at the beginning of the 3 weeks, they report back that it tastes, they're, not super happy with it, that it is very tart. But then at the end of the 3 weeks, you eat a green apple and it is so juicy and sweet and just luxurious.
And satisfies your cravings.
Yeah,
That's all you need.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And another piece of we're going to have two bite-sized pieces this week, is the 5 and 5 rule. So when you are looking at some type of packaged food, aim for 5 grams of sugar or less and 5 ingredients or less.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of it's a very general rule, but it can definitely help you navigate those grocery store aisles a little bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is a great rule. You know, the 5 and 5, 5 grams of sugar, 5 ingredients or less. But this is also just another really good reason why it's always best to just eat real food, right?
Yeah.
Cook yourself, then you know what's in it. You know exactly the ingredients, right? I got some chicken. I'm cooking it in coconut oil. I'm going to put some salt and pepper and, maybe some herbs on it. And then I'm going to steam some broccoli. Like, that's always going to be a much better option than something that you're going to have to pick up and read and dissect and make sure you're not getting any of those hidden sugar words, all that kind of stuff. So, yep, it just puts you in control.
Exactly. All
Yeah.
right, guys. Well, that is all we have today. Thank you for listening to this week's show. If you want to learn more, you can find us online. Megan can be found at Megan Gump, .com, or on Instagram at megan.gump. You can find me, Casey Poe Campbell, at caseypoe.com, or on Instagram at Real Talk Casey. See you then.
Bye, guys.
Bye.